Hi, this is Paul. You're in the musical mandala, and today I want to get into inversions, especially inversions of A minor. So first things first, we want to get familiar with our anatomy. That is, how is our chord voiced? A minor is voiced root, fifth, root, third, fifth. A, E, A, C, E. Now the next thing we need to be able to do in order to play inversions is to, from each part of the anatomy or from each coordinate, we need to be able to find the closest chord tone above and the closest chord tone below. Now when I say that, it's kind of a stack. It's like root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, up and up and up and down and down and down. And so the closest chord tone below the root is the fifth. Right? So if I'm on this A, the closest chord tone below is this low E. Here's the root. We go through the 7th, the 6th to the 5th. And then the closest chord tone above is the 3rd. But notice the 3rd isn't played on the chord, right? It's A straight to E. So the 3rd is played on the same string as the A. So it's A, C here, on the 3rd fret of the A string. So, when our bass note is also our root note, that's called a root position chord. It's not an inversion. So here's A, minor, in the root position. And I'm going to separate out the bass note of the chord from the rest of the chord. Root position. Now, the first inversion chord is when the bass note of the chord is the 3rd, right? So C is at the bottom of the chord. So here's A minor over C. So we're going to play C and then the rest of the chord. Whoa, very different feeling. And now I'm going to go between root position A, which is going to be the most stable feeling amongst these three voicings. The three voicings being root position, the first inversion that we're doing now, and the second inversion that we'll do next. So I'll go back and forth between the chord A minor and the chord A minor over C, which is a relatively unstable version of the chord. So those two voicings of A minor have the sharpest contrast between stability and instability. And that's because the root is the most stable element of a chord. The 5th is also quite stable, though not as stable. And the 3rd, that tone that really colors the chord in a major or minor way, that's the least stable of the 3. And so if you put the least stable element of a chord at the bottom of it, it's going to be like a snowman that has the head below its base, right? It's going to be a little wobbly or mobile, buoyant. Now going to the second inversion, which is A minor over E. And I'm going to use this E that's the closest chord tone below A. So I'll play A, the root, and the rest of the chord. Then I'll play E. Interesting, right? One thing I'm going to do to clarify or really draw a sharp distinction between the root position chord, where the root and the bass are the same, A, and the second inversion chord, where E, or the fifth, is in the bass. I'm gonna play the root of the chord, A, right here, and then the rest of the chord, these 4 strings. And when I play E in the bass, I'm gonna skip over A. So you feel that really the bass is very distinct. Here's and all these chords, A minor over C, and A minor over E, that is the root position chord, A minor, the first inversion chord, A minor over C, and the second inversion chord, A minor over E. These are all A minor chords. They're just voiced differently, and they have a different effect. One really common usage of the root and the fifth is an alternating bass pattern that sounds like this. And now I'll play with all 3 inversions. I'll be like root, A over E, A over C, A over A. Here we go now. Now, let's also use this fifth above the root. So here's A over E. And when I go up and I press this E, I'm going to make sure that the A is quiet. So now I have a new option. And also take note that when I have A, this open A, and this E played on the 2nd fret of the D string, when I'm alternating between those, I'm gonna make these high 3 strings the rest of the chord so that I isolate these 2, this root and this fifth, as bass notes that I experience separately from the rest of the chord. So it'll sound like this. Let's play around with all of them. Yeah. Inversions of A minor. Have fun.